I do, however, we are trying very hard as an executive to work with management. These are issues that, and I'm sure some of you are aware, has been a survey done almost a year ago now. The results haven't been made public like the previous one. They may at some point be, but right now, we're 6 or 7 months into trying to work with management to rectify almost all the problems that have been laid out therein. Very little movement on that, but we're trying very hard to get to the bottom of those issues.
Did it ever cross it?
Intrepid reporter have been asking for a copy of that survey.
Look, and I understand, I do, I understand the desire. I mean, the reality is the people that can fix that are the managers and the union body, which our executive represents. We can help identify concerns that are brought to us as an executive, and the people that can fix it are at that table. However, at some point, you have to throw your hands up in the air.
Did it ever cross your mind that these hearings are union busting?
Oh, look, certainly you could look at them in that perspective, Charles, to outright say they are, that's their full extent and their full intention. I don't believe that's the case. But at the end of the day, they are part of the process, and we're hopeful that the process will work itself out eventually, and we'll proceed and support our officers as they proceed into the next stages.
Is this lack of confidence that Constable Campbell has spoken about, either one of you can answer, that's weighing on the rank and file and membership? Could it create a dangerous situation where officers are hesitating in a crisis moment that could bring some sort of risk to officers or to members of the public?
I'd like to answer that. I think I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't, because I would say in any given situation of any urgency, thousands of things flip through your mind in split seconds. And it's everything from what you're seeing, what you're responding to, then your training, the other innocent bystanders, if we're talking like the use of force with a firearm, which is, if anybody sees that or happens captured on video, it's going to be one of the most violent things that you can see. But if it's justified, the criminal code allows for that use of force for all the right reasons, but I can guarantee you it would be a thought that flips through the officer's head, and it's probably going to be it's going to be the one that stays for 2 or 3 seconds. If I do this and it results that way, my life is going to, not only the individual consequences, but immediately you'll be sent home, which is the right thing. Let you take some time. But in this environment we're in right now, I think most officers would think it's going to cause a couple of seconds delay and think that this is going to impact the rest of their career, if not end it, whether it was done, rightly or not.
So it'd be a train of thought that would interfere with the training that you had?
No, it wouldn't that it would interfere with the training. It would just interject itself amongst all the other things that you...
Interfere might be too strong a word, but at a moment we shouldn't be thinking about something like that. It could pop into your head.
That's a fair statement, yes.
Here's a question, I'm not sure if you can answer it. This is a process that took more than a year to complete. I'm assuming there would have been a number of talks and negotiations and discussions. Was there ever a moment when the chief and or her legal representative offered something less than resignation or termination?
We really probably shouldn't get into the confidential nature of the discussions that took place, but obviously the next step is to file an application for judicial review. We have 90 days to file it, and we intend to file that application and have a court hear whether the arbitrator's decision to terminate Ms. Campbell is appropriate or not. From the onset, the policing, as we know, and I hear from the officers, is changing. We're in the 21st century, and there's all types of issues that have come to the forefront that officers must deal with on a day-to-day basis, and it shouldn't be ever a second in a police officer's mind that their career may be ended as a result of actions they need to take to protect the public, or when they rely on the training. And it doesn't take much for me to sit here and think of the numerous complaints that I've heard over the years for officers that have come in here that have been trivial in nature, and make me question out loud whether, you know, they would have been pursued in another policing agency. And so when Constable Campbell says that they're being held to an imperfect standard, there's some real substance to that. Because, you know, accountability and transparency may mean one thing to this particular chief of police, and it may mean something different to a completely different other chief of police. I can tell you of incidents, and I'm sure these two officers can tell you of incidents where conduct complaints have been processed because the police officer failed to utilize his turn signal from going from Prospect Street down to Regent Street. I've had incidents where I've been involved where police officers have been investigated for a potential criminal allegation of sexual assault when they frisked a male suspect between the legs. These are complaints that generally should be dismissed at the front door, but it's not happening. And so you have to ask yourself, what does that do to a police officer's morale? What does it do to an entire department's morale when they go to frisk a potential suspect who may have a knife, who may have a gun, who may have some illegal contraband between the legs, you know, and it's a male suspect and a male police officer frisking him in an area that they've been trained to check them for. I mean, that potentially now sets a precedent where they could be investigated for an allegation of inappropriate touching.